Hello, I'm Michael, and this is Tarot by the Tree. We're working at just completing the manual for the Tarot by the Tree series, and it will be available soon. In the meantime, we've been just polishing up parts, and I've been looking at a lot of other tarot books on the market, and there are so many. I own quite a number of them myself, and I imagine many people have a miniature library of tarot books. Last week in tarot, we talked about my own personal journey that started with a gift of a deck of tarot cards in my teens. It evolved to a chance encounter, and that led to years of interest and participating in Kabbalah. And through those two things, one day I made a discovery, and that was how the cards would align by suspending the 11 card. And we've gone into the system of Tarot by the Tree many times. The books today include everything, and there are so many aspects that can spring off tarot. The Jungian idea, the student of Freud, who has many psychological ideas that overlay with the tarot system, and that's very interesting, and a lot of people are into that now. Astrology, of course, there's chakras, and there's all kinds of alternative tarot decks. Our system is about the discovery of a way that the 22 cards of the major arcana teach the Kabbalah through the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. Those were the biblical clues about how to resurrect this knowledge. The two trees. The first tree, when you're young, explore that. Once you've acquired that knowledge and in your maturity, move to the second tree. That's why Eve and Adam were warned in their youth not to partake of the second tree, the tree of knowledge. But they were told that the tree of life would answer all their needs. We're going to talk a little bit today about the book that's coming out. It will be a black cover, but it will have our logo on it, and basically something like that. This is a complete description of our system. It goes back to the first 10 lessons. That's where we lifted those 10 lessons from, the story. And it will move on to our 2x2 series and our 4x4 series to really show the interrelationship of the different cards. I'll quickly go down the list of the index. I think what I'm trying to do is to explain that the book that's coming out is our discovery that the tarot cards were made to reflect the aspects of the two trees. Through that way, Kabbalah could remain alive and very teachable if people were traveling. The cards could fit on top of a normal card deck, and there were many games you could play with the pips and the trumps, or the minor and the major arcanas. The book that we're putting out is not a history of everything that we know about tarot. It doesn't include a lot about some of the old tarot decks, and it is about the discovery. What you learn from Tarot by the Tree won't interfere with any previous knowledge of tarot that you have. We already know from the pictures and the numbers what the cards represent. They were designed to be understood. The analogy is, you know all the people, all the cards individually. The Tarot by the Tree section will tell you where they live and how they were born. You will know all the same characters. You will retain all the knowledge that you have. This is just going to give you the background and the structure. This will add to your knowledge of the tarot cards. And intuitive people will start to see the same relationships that I did, but they'll probably take it further. I'm looking forward to the results of people who learn this system and they start to discover it too. I've been at it for about 10 years now. I made the discovery about 6 years ago. We made the discovery available to everybody. And this year we'll be putting out the manual for the book. These are the chapters. We'll talk about the Kabbalistic connection. And I have it here. We've known, I've read this before, when we put into a search engine, could you please tell me how the tree of life affects tarot? The exact question was, what is the tree of life in tarot? And the answer from the computer was, in tarot, the tree of life serves as the blueprint to the meanings of the cards and how they are connected. Conversely, the cards are considered to be the keys to the tree of life. For this reason, much deeper meaning can be found in the cards when their position on the tree of life is considered. The Kabbalistic connection is what we focus on. We believe not just that this is an aspect of tarot cards, but this is the intention of tarot cards, is to reflect the Sephira of the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. We have a brief description of the tarot cards. We have a brief description of Kabbalah. We talk about the major arcana, and specifically about two cards that aren't on the Kabbalah, the Fool and Justice. Justice is the hinge pin, and the Fool is the aspirant or the mobile adventurer. We talk about the first journey of the Fool, the second journey of the Fool. We talk about the two towers of mercy and severity, and that's crucial to the whole study of the tarot cards. The left side is the pillar of severity, and the right side is the pillar of mercy. This is not good and bad. These are two things that can be good, but taken to their extreme, they are bad. Those words don't really serve us very well anymore, because when we think of severity and mercy, it's easy to think of cruelty and kindness, and that's not it at all. Severity is the ability to keep the unwanted out, and mercy is an example of allowing things to grow. We talk a bit about the present and the future of tarot cards, and we don't really know where it's going to go. It seems to be branching out ever and ever wider, and the books seem to be coming out thicker and thicker. There's more of a body of knowledge on tarot now than there were many years ago. We talk about our essential method of starting any spread, and it starts out with a 3-card vertical spread, and that represents the aspirant. We do have some notes on fortune telling, and we touch on the subject, are tarot cards a problem for religious people? And I think tarot cards have become tinged with a bit of that reputation for whatever you can think of, Satanism, the idea that there's a fixed future, the idea that you can manipulate reality. None of those things are actually true, but tarot cards, through their history, may have picked up some of these beliefs. We talk a little bit about intuitive tarot, which is really important. Intuitive people will discover things that I have yet to discover in this system. As I had mentioned, this is a rediscovery of an ancient system. I was just the person to uncover it. People after me will dig a little deeper and find a little more. I find the system is very compelling, and once I began to study it, I got swept away. It seems that there are intrinsic forces in this that just make sense the more you look at it. We ask, why wasn't the connection discovered before? I'm not sure, because once you realize the connection, you'll see it was, in a sense, hidden in plain sight, I suggest that maybe there were some red herrings along the way where people got caught up in the study of the 22 pathways, for instance, and that sort of led the charge away from our system, the system we discovered. We'll end with a conclusion and a bit of my own personal journey, and we'll talk about the pathways on the Tree of Life too. The book itself, we say this is intended to be a manual for learning the meaning of tarot cards. Intuitive people can apply their intuition after they have the knowledge. This is not against the intuitive view, it's just that the intuition of skilled fortune tellers is magnified through the knowledge of what the cards mean, because the cards have been designed in a very intricate and interlocking way. For hundreds of years, various scholars and mystics have seen the correlation between the cards and the Kabbalah, and we've seen all kinds of efforts to connect the two. Today, there may be a tendency for tarot cards to drift further and further away from their intended meanings. Remember, we said the tarot cards were designed to teach the Sefer of the Tree of Life and the Tree of Knowledge. If we are to design our own deck of fortune-telling cards, tarot cards if you will, we don't really know if these connections to the Kabbalah were preserved. Are the people making new cards aware of the original meanings? We hope that the symbolism is retained in modern decks, but of course it won't always be. And this is not a criticism of modern decks. Modern decks, especially those done before AI, are creative and insightful. I think they're fortune-telling cards. I think once the card has left the foundation of Kabbalistic wisdom, they become something else. If you were hoping to discover the historic meaning of tarot, you might decide to buy one of the older decks. There's the Marseille deck and different decks, and that's what I started with. And they have pictures on the major arcana that are the roots from the wider weight series. But all of the minor arcana are just design. There is no picture, so there'll be some memory work or associative work necessary there.
You want us to see the cards? Yeah.
You can see the types. I personally use the Rider-Waite series. If you were going out to buy a deck of tarot cards, I recommend the Rider-Waite because the imagery is modern times. We can relate to it, and they have been very faithful with the some of the ancient meanings. But it could be confusing. Some of the tarot decks are beautiful. They are works of art, and they come in all kinds. And just to take a brief look at the all kinds, if you were to go to a store for a deck of tarot cards, you might be overwhelmed with the choice you have. And here are just some, and I'm sure some of them are wonderful, and some people really love these decks. This is just sort of a roughly alphabetical list of what's available out there. There's Bee Bite Tarot, Angel Tarot, Aquarian Tarot, Art Nouveau Tarot, Cat People Tarot. There's Chinese Tarot, Deviant Moon Tarot, Cosmic Tarot, Dragon Tarot, Dreaming Way Tarot, Fairy Tarot, Fantastical Creatures Tarot, Goddess Tarot, Gummy Bear Tarot, Halloween Tarot, Herbal Tarot, Phantasmagoric Tarot, Santa Fe Tarot, Sexual Tarot, Swiss Tarot, Tarot of Witches, and Vampire Tarot. It would be confusing. We'll look at a little bit of one difference you might find with the way we look at the suits. We use the word coins for pentacles because pentacles have an association with pentagrams, and we didn't want an already mystically laden belief system like tarot to fall further into that magic arena. We're trying to keep this as common sense as we can. We also use the word staff for wand for the same reason, because wands have come to represent magic, and that's not part of what the suit of wands is about, or the suit of staves. We use the tarot for fortune telling. There's no magic window into another time. We can remember, we can experience, and we can predict. The tarot cards provide a set of archetypes that can stimulate our perceptions, helping us understand the present situation. By identifying major forces and trends, we can sometimes see what is likely to occur. If you see two cars approaching each other up a hill, you can predict that there could be a collision at the crest. That's not seeing the future, that's just analyzing what's happening now and seeing what a likely result is. The meaning in the tarot cards seem to work with our own psychology to engage our subconscious memory and associations. And that's where intuitive people will really respond. And we just mentioned there is a difference between foretelling the future and seeing a pattern of progress. About fortune telling, that's what tarot cards are famous for. Gypsies with crystal balls and decks of cards roaming around telling people about their love life or propensity for success. Tarot cards were not made for fortune telling, and to me that seems obvious. Fortune tellers abound. The I Ching from China uses dice. People have used tea leaves, and they still do. At the bottom of your teacup, what's drained will tell you they've used scattered bones. The palm of your hand apparently can tell your whole life story. Fortune telling does not require much. To design, draw, and produce 78 detailed cards, 22 of which are highly systematized, is not necessary for fortune telling. It seems obvious the cards were designed for something else, and they became used for fortune telling and for card games, and that disguised their real usage. This is I have to tread carefully here because I don't want to offend anybody, but we don't use the term spirituality. I say it's not included, implied, or intended. It used to be a term referring to those involved in a religious study of God, and you can look it up in the dictionary. You'll see something like this. But today, that's way too simple a term for so complicated a subject. There are atheists who consider themselves spiritual. In reality, some attempts at coming up with a modern definition of the word spirituality resulted in many definitions that often disagreed with each other. The story I heard was a dictionary-based organization had people from different walks of life, different belief systems come in. There were quite a number, and they worked on coming up with a definition of spirituality that we could all agree on. In the end, this group came up with more than 10 definitions, and some of these definitions were mutually exclusive to other ones. Everybody believes in spirituality, everybody thinks they are spiritual, but if you ask 10 people to write down a one-sentence definition of spiritual, you get 10 different ideas. Asking for a definition of spirituality is difficult, and we conclude this very short idea that that's not going to be a part of our book by saying there will be no discussion of soul, vibrations, hidden energies, alternate universes, or secret powers. That, along with the idea of spirituality, may appeal to some people, but I just can't get a real solid handle on it, so it's not part of this. This is a much more objective study. It shows how the cards were intentioned and designed. As we mentioned, telling the future with tarot cards. There is no window into another time. We can remember, we can experience, and we can predict. The tarot cards provide a set of archetypes that can stimulate our own perceptions, and that's what they do. If we just try to read a fortune, we're just tapping off the top of our mind, our conscious. Something like the cards, and there may be other things too, I don't know, pictures, music, that can trigger our subconscious. You can't reach the subconscious through the conscious. You need an intermediary, and the cards provide that. So you can surprise yourself when you're reading a fortune, let the cards speak for themselves, and you may come up with a scenario that you wouldn't have thought of yourself. It surprises you a little bit too, and that may be some information from your subconscious. People will respond to that. And when we tell a future with tarot cards, we are telling one possible future. And that's all. It has no particular preference to fate. It's just one possible one. Basically, the minor arcana, as we've said, is very much the same as our regular deck of playing cards, except the jacks on today's cards were originally the pages and the knights. They've somehow been put together into one card in the modern decks. Okay, so we're finishing it up now. It will be on Amazon hopefully in a few weeks. If there are any questions or anybody has about what we've done so far or where we're going, just drop us a line. And I think that's it. You'll be seeing this soon. It's going to be very simple cover. It is not an overall history of tarot. This is a specific thing. This is showing what the tarot was originally designed for. It will give you knowledge that will add to whatever knowledge you have. It's very unlikely it's going to get in the way. And people do perceive things. I was watching someone on YouTube yesterday, and they were talking about the Empress card. And the Empress card, I'll show you. It appears to be kind of a happy card, benign, nurturing. And this person who was reviewing the book was reading the book where they said the Empress would be a very nice lady. And the person reviewing it stopped, and she says, well, I don't know about that. The Empress isn't always a nice lady. I thought that's so perceptive. Did she know that the Empress is the top of the pillar of severity? How did she know that this card was not all about niceness when it would be an easy conclusion to make? So people do perceive the truth. I think the knowledge that everybody has about tarot is solid. It will remain solid. The tarot cards have a way of leaking their meanings into our minds. What we have discovered is why they were produced the way they were and how they interact. The major arcana are, in a sense, a family of forces. The analogy that I have, and I'll end with this, imagine a whole bunch of convoluted metal parts all over the ground, rubber tubes, hoses, gaskets, little things with levers and pulleys and valves, and they're all over the floor. And for years and years, people study these things, and they come up with ideas, and they're very accurate. They get to know the probable purpose of each. For instance, one of them is large, has a heat-resistant metal. It has some burn marks on it and flanges to dissipate heat. So, of course, they think, well, this unit must be important. It has to be able to withstand heat, it has to be able to give off heat. Maybe this is the heart of this scattered assembly. Somebody else finds another part, and we study the parts. Everybody does, and they come up with all these ideas. What Tarot by the Tree does is it knows these parts, when assembled correctly, form an engine. And of course, there could be a mistake. That part that they thought was the heart of the engine because of the heat-resistant metal in the flanges, it turns out to be a transmission cooler. So it's not really the heart of the engine, but under load, it will make the engine perform better. It's knowing the structure that can give us a real concrete idea of what that part means. And up to now, we've been studying the scattered part of the tarot system, just the cards. And we've succeeded in assembling them very closely, and we've succeeded in extracting the correct meaning from the cards. The final step will be the Tarot by the Tree system. When the cards are put into the system, we have a working engine, and the parts work with each other to provide a unity composed of many individual segments. That's it. We'll see you next week, and by then, hopefully, we have the manual and the book ready to move on to the next step. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.